So we started this idea at 10 a.m. technically.
Because Nick's computer decided to just fully itself. All right, time for episode 2 of AI versus Salesman versus Jay. Okay, so here are the tests that we're gonna be running right here. So we're gonna be doing a gaming test, a compute test, a storage speed test, a storage capacity test, GPU power efficiency, CPU power efficiency, and future compatibility. So this is the spreadsheet I made here for the score charts. Basically, there's 165 total points available. Like, that's the max points a person could get. So if someone like won all categories, 165 points. So gaming is worth 60 points as a total category. Compute's worth 50 points as a total category. Storage speed is 15 points. Disk capacity is 10 points. GPU efficiency is 10 points. CPU efficiency is 10 points. And future compatibility is 10 points each. Now, all categories are gonna be percentage based. So for instance, we add up all the average FPS. Whoever had the most average FPS gets the 60 points for that category. Let's just use 100 FPS for example. If I had 100 FPS and that was my 60, like let's just say it all added to 100 FPS. We know it doesn't, but that would get me 60 points. If Phil had 97 FPS, then he gets 97% of 60, that would be his score. And then so on and so forth. So it's all gonna auto-tabulate on here. And what we're gonna do right now is we are going to basically give, I don't know, it was gonna be 30 minutes and then I said 20, now I'm thinking like 15 for each of us to go in and kind of like tune our system real quick. Nick, do you feel comfortable tuning your system? I'm only asking because his system did something really weird where the chipset, he installed the chipset driver and then it completely like broke the shell of Windows in some way.
Like Control-Alt-Delete wasn't even working.
Control-Alt-Delete wouldn't bring up a menu, no programs would launch, but you could still navigate within the OS and go into the File Explorer and stuff. So we had to do a full wipe of this system. I'll be honest, I don't think your system is like really overclockable, but it's up to you.
To be honest, I don't want to touch it because I don't want to fork it and set us back another 2 hours.
Yeah, because then your score is just gonna be 0.
Nick, it's been more than 2 hours.
Okay.
It's been like 4. Okay, Phil, you gonna mess around with yours?
Okay, yeah, I
All right,
first.
so Nick and I are gonna leave the room. Phil is gonna go ahead and play around with his. You get 15 minutes. I guess we'll make it 20 since he's not gonna do it. You have 20 minutes to go in and kind of do any tweaking or tuning that you wanna do. We talked about this a little bit offline. Phil was like, should I just use AI? No. The AI portion of this was how does it choose the parts? You can use your knowledge now to see if those parts were overclockable, etc. So, okay.
All right, starting timer now. So first order of business is all of the NVIDIA control panel BS that Jay also does for XOC stuff. GPU power management mode, I'm gonna always prefer maximum performance. Texture filtering, if I go to high performance, it's gonna make the textures look like crap, but it's worth about 2%. Maybe this MSI card might be a golden sample, we'll see. Don't think it's gonna be golden enough to beat the 9070 XT though, So if it ran at 500, crashed at 600 in Cyberpunk, I think I'm gonna stick it to 400. Okay, so since this test is gonna run through the last 1.5 minutes, I'm gonna call that. So the tweaks I did was basically small tweaks in the NVIDIA driver to kind of optimize for a little bit extra performance. I gave it a plus 400 megahertz core overclock on the GPU, plus 500 megahertz memory clock on the GPU, and Expo basically in the BIOS.
But that one's going under that one. Why do I have 2 cursors?
Nick's computer's contagious.
I know, what the hell? It's because they're all plugged into the same power strip. All right, XMP is already enabled. We're at 6400. CPU's chilling at 28C. Fan's already at 100% on the CPU fan, 2119 RPM. Case fans automatically go 100% because they're just plugged into SATA power. They're not even plugged into a controller or the motherboard. I have removed all limits. OC Tuner 2. I don't know what that does, honestly. I've sunk to all cores at 5.4. I know enough about Core Ultra to know that like pushing the P cores isn't gonna give me a whole lot of excess performance, but it will give me a lot more power draw. Pushing the E cores allows me to actually really uplift the scores and helps with gaming a lot without hitting efficiency too hard. So I wanna see right now if I can actually get 5.0 to run on the E core. I'm curious if I can. Thermal velocity boost is all just on auto right now. That's all fine. Internal power management, everything is maxed out. I also increased my temperature of my CPU to 105 just so it won't throttle as early. Everything else is on auto, that's good. Tweaker's Paradise. Current microcode, sure, whatever. Did you shut yours off?
Just for the sound.
Oh. I know, yours is so much louder than mine.
Because I have my GPU fans locked at 100 now.
Yeah. I should overclock my SSD. Like I can, right? Okay, let's see if 5.0 will run on the E-Core All-Core. Okay, it's going. We're actually hitting between 5.3 and 5.4, but 5.0 on the E-Core. So I should probably be deep into the 38,000s right now, I think. There's no throttling reason. I'm only at 70C on the core. Package is at 78. Oh, okay. I was worried about that. Wow. Okay, it passed. It pulled 246 watts to do it. Let's see if it'll do it a couple times. Yeah, see, it's just like totally ignoring the slider. Now memory does something, but core clock is not. Okay, we'll call it. P-Core locked at 5.4. E-Core locked at 49.5, which is giving me 5 gigs effective, even though 50 wouldn't work. And then fans are at 100% on the CPU. CPU power limit and all those Intel safeguards are removed. We're running the Asus AI tweaker setting 2, whatever the hell that does. I have also all of the thermal velocity boost is still in effect, but I set the temperatures to 105. But I was only hitting like 81C under load, so I don't think TVB is even gonna really matter. Obviously Expo at 6400. And then for the GPU, I just pushed the RAM up a little bit to 2750. Additional power limit, voltage is still at stock. And then I didn't touch the clock because it doesn't seem to take any sort of effect.
So did Nick do anything?
I didn't do jack shit.
All right, it's finally time to launch our tests. It actually took us as long to get this ready as it did for them to get Artemis fueled and loaded and ready to go. So of course we've got the Artemis launch on back there. But anyway, Cyberpunk is up first. So here's the way we're gonna do this. We've already gone into the game and made sure all the settings match. This is a 1 run and done. This is not like a best of 3 or 3 run averages or anything like that. And we're gonna be using the built-in benchmark and using its average FPS that it spits out. 3, 2, 1, go. Mine just crashed. Because I have a feeling that the driver and MSI Afterburner are kind of conflicting. So I'm just removing that. I won't have any overclock on my GPU at all. Okay, so Nick's average was 36.96, yours was 64.87. 67 versus 64 versus 36. Now this is the part that makes it exciting because closeness like that is reflected in the score. Because remember, I'm gonna get 60 points because I have 67.68. So let me put my score in here real quick. I have 100% of the score, so 60 points, I have to put it in right there. But Phil has 95.8% of that 60 score, and Nick has 54.6% of that score. So again, that's only 1 run, so we'll do the averages and get that all in there once the all the totals are met. So,
Next game?
Yeah, on to the next game. Okay, so here we go. That was a little too close for comfort, I'm not gonna lie. How do you feel after that run?
I feel.
You feel? Well, that's an improvement.
Yeah, I mean, it plays.
Phil, how do you feel about your run though? Was it better than you expected, or did you just know that Cyberpunk is that much like favoring NVIDIA? We say favoring because 5070 is quite a bit of a tier below 9070 XT on where they're expected to compete.
Yeah, because my card is $120 cheaper than yours, so that's
that
kind
particular
of crazy.
SKU of it, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, it fell pretty much where I expected it, just because I knew Cyberpunk
I think the
is
crazy
so...
overclock you're getting on it though is really lifting that score. I've never ever gotten a graphics card to go like a plus 600.
Yeah, like it took plus 600 to crash, and then
So you ran
like,
plus 400 for...
I ran plus 400 for safety, but I could probably run plus 500.
That's scary.
And that's with a 500 megahertz memory.
Okay, so here we go. F1, we're on Bahrain, right? Dry, clear, clear. Okay, so on 3, 2, 1, we'll hit run benchmark and we'll come back with average FPS. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so I had an average FPS of 137. You're 111, he was 74. Okay, so the spread after that now is, I'm still in the lead. Phil is 85.9% of my performance right now, and Nick is 54.2% of my performance right now. Okay, we have Horizon Zero Dawn, and that is a manual run. What we'll do is we'll load the results all together at the same time so we can see what those averages are. All right, so we'll have Nick load his first. Go ahead and hit go. Your average FPS was 72.1. Phil's 106.72, 121.62.
Hey, not bad.
So the gaming side is done. So I got 60 points. Phil has a 51.96. Unfortunately, Nick, I'm sorry, 33.66. Sorry, Matt and Team Nick. Okay, very close. Closer than I think I was kind of expecting, to be honest. And then Nick is trailing with a 33.7. So the 3 CPU tests we're doing is Cinebench R23 multi-core, Geekbench 6, and then TimeSpy CPU, which is a physics test. 3, 2, 1, go. I think I missed on mine. It's okay, I'll catch up. I probably will. Remember, this is a 265KF, 7700X, 7800X 3D. Yeah, I started way later and I definitely am passing.
Yeah, you're past us. Oh yeah, you're done.
38,066.
Now it's the X3D versus none.
I know.
And that's one tier below the X3D.
This is higher core clock versus higher cache. Clearly, the cache doesn't matter in a test like this. So
Close.
Nick has Phil has a 19,590 on the AI system. 17,780 or 95 on the Salesman system. Okay, so timeout real quick before we do Geekbench 6. I just realized Steam was still running in the background, and that is my bad. That actually does affect the score a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and rerun Geekbench or Cinebench for Phil real quick, see if his score improves. 19,169. So you lost 400 points. Okay, it's fine.
Steam, what?
Steam was boosting you.
That's hilarious.
Cheater! All right, Geekbench 6 is done. 14,187 for the 7800X 3D, 15,578 for the 7700X, 21,898 for the 265KF. Now we have the TimeSpy CPU test to do, which is just gonna be basically, it uses the CPU to render the scene instead of the GPU. And we're using TimeSpy regular, not TimeSpy extreme, because that'll actually spit us out a frames per second that we can generate the score off of rather than a millisecond time, which is what extreme uses. Okay, 17,099 for me, right? Nick, what was yours? 12,691. Phil got a 13,516. Okay, so our current tally right now, I'm at 120, Phil's at 83.6, and Nick is at 62.7 points. Okay, so now comes the part I've been dreading, which is Crystal Disk Mark. So we're just gonna add up the scores. And this is, well, okay, so Crystal Disk Mark is worth 15 points and capacity is worth 10. In fact, we can just skip capacity real quick. I have a 500 gig, AI has a 1 terabyte, Nick has a 2 terabyte. That's a total of 10 points. So that gets me a 2.5 score.
Nice.
Phil is half of his 2 terabytes, so that gets him 5 points. And then Nick gets 10 points. Let's see what that did to the scoreboard real quick.
Nick's like, I'm gonna celebrate my
Yeah,
celebrate the
my
one.
one category.
Now I still stand by my Gen 3 decision, especially now, because of the fact that drives are so expensive. My drive, my 500 gigabyte drive was $69.99 when I bought it last week, when we got it for this test. It was $99.99 the other day, and probably even more today. So here's the sad part. This would be a very different result if we did that this week versus last week. And I don't think I would have ended up with a 9070 XT. I guess I could have, potentially. You would definitely not have ended up with a 2 terabyte, I don't think.
Action.
No.
Do it.
No.
Come on.
I'm not,
Yeah.
So what are your numbers? What about your numbers? It's okay, it's fine. I still think, like, I would take a Gen 3 drive over a 2.5 inch SSD over SATA 6 any day, but, because that's still like 4 times, 5 times faster than a SATA 6 SSD at like 550 megabytes a second. Okay, so now with storage speeds 15 points on the line, Nick has 15, took first place. Wow, okay, so Nick's score is 100% of the 15, right? Phil was 95.1% of his score. I was 35% of the score. It's okay.
That really is, like, we should be clear about this. At the end of the day, it's gonna feel so much way closer of an experience to own a Gen 3 and a Gen 4
Yeah,
drive.
because my stuff was still loading faster than your guys's.
Yeah, because the CPU
Yeah.
still...
Yeah. Current leaderboard though, I'm leading right now at 127.8. Phil's in second, or excuse me, AI is in second at 102.8, and then Nick is at 87.7 with the Salesman's help there. We have to do power efficiency now, and this one's gonna be interesting because we're gonna do GPU power efficiency, so it's performance per watt. So for GPU, we're gonna use TimeSpy GPU test, and we're gonna divide the score by the watts used by the GPU to get a performance per watt of the GPU. And then we're gonna do the same thing for CPU in Cinebench R23. All right, so the scores are run. Remember, the name of this test is efficiency, not highest score. So highest score can be completely screwed if it took a lot of watts to get it, right? Like a la 5090, 5080, 4090, all that, right? So Nick's got a 7305, which is much lower than AI's 11679 versus my 14,147. So we've already got our TDPs. I'm at 334. My graphics card had an additional 10% TDP available to it, which I maxed out. And because that's where my overclock settings were, I had to leave it. I couldn't go and now suddenly like, I'm gonna undervolt and underclock and then get more efficiency. So 10% of 304 is 30. That's how I ended up with 334 watt TDP. Phil's is 250 watt TDP card, and still only pulled 250 watts because his card is locked on the power limit. He can't push the power limit up, and it did fully boost to the 250. Nick's is a 170 watt card, no additional power limit to him. Big surprise, 170 watts. So 7305 by his 170 gets him 43 points per watt. Phil's score, 46 points per watt. My 14,147 divided by 334 gets me 42 points per watt. Wow. So efficiency-wise, my card is the least efficient, but they're really close, right? Okay, so Phil gets the full 10 points. Nick is in second place, 9.28 or 9.3, and then I am at 9.1. So that's the last of, no, actually we have CPU efficiency test. I'm legit worried about this one. All right, so Nick's sales associate build was most efficient at 100% efficiency. Mine was second place efficient at 69.8% of his efficiency. And then Phil was in third place with 60.7% of his efficiency. So efficiency score was worth 10 points. Nick gets the 10. And then I get a 6.98, so 7. And then Phil gets 6.07 or 6.1. All right, the last one here, it's truly subjective. I think what we're gonna do is we were just gonna give 10 points if you're upgradable in platform. So let's talk about this real quick. Scooch over here. Okay, so let's talk about upgradability here. So this isn't gonna be like 10 points, and then percentage of that. It's just, if we have upgrades that make sense ahead of us, I think we just give 10 points to each person, right? So future compatibility or upgrade path when it comes to CPU or platform. Now here's the thing with that. We know AM4 lasted 10 years, right? There's only 2 generations that exist so far for AM5. There's 7000 series and 9000 series. But we know that AM5 is going to support future CPUs regardless of the platform. So I'm gonna give each of you 10 for that. Now, PSU upgrade. We all went 750 watt. Now, we do have an upgrade path available to us, meaning I could potentially go with a 5080 or a 5070 Ti or 5070 Ti Super, whatever may come out. The thing is, technically 5080s say 850 watt power supply recommended. But after our video where we put the 5090 on a 650 watt SFX gold power supply, and it took over 900 watts for that power supply to finally power cycle, I think we could safely run a 5080 on a 750.
And coincidentally, this makes Nick's upgrade path the most viable for GPU because he's already got the CPU set for a high-end GPU. He has a lot of power budget because the CPU doesn't burn anywhere near as much as ours.
Now he's got the right CPU for gaming. Yeah. It's just, I don't feel like Nick's build overall was very balanced. Yeah. I really don't. And I mean, power to Matt. We love Matt over there at Micro Center, but I don't think that this was a very balanced build. 7800 X3D with a 9060 XT just didn't seem to make sense to me. Like I think it would have made more sense to go with the cheaper CPU bundle and a better GPU. Me personally, I chose to go Intel just to shake it up. But it did better than I expected it to be honest. Yeah. I think we all get 10 points in this.
I think so too, yeah.
I definitely have an upgrade available for drive.
Yeah.
because capacity is the part that really, like Gen 3, okay, fine, that's one thing, but 500 gigabytes, now the thing is my board has spots for at least 3 NVMEs, right? So I could easily, And I want to point out too, so many people commented in part 1 going, Jay can't even fit the whole suite on his, I have 135 gigabytes still on that drive with Cyberpunk on there and F1 2024 and Horizon Forbidden West and all of our test suite stuff.
And you guys saw in some of like the behind the scenes and B-roll shots that like Jay's computer was reliably loading stuff faster.
Yeah.
Because the drive speed is not the only factor.
And I think that's where a lot of my experience comes in, because I've run every type of drive you can imagine in so many different builds and test benches and everything else.
Yeah.
Also, another aspect of having a split drive system that a lot of people don't talk about is, I used to recommend this back in the day, and it's almost like time to recommend it again because of what drive pricing looks like. It's get a drive that can comfortably fit your OS and maybe whatever game you're currently playing and enjoying on your main drive, and then get a larger capacity drive as for your game drives. Not even necessarily slower, you can't go slower than PCI 3 for me right now, right? But I'm just saying, like, for me right now, I can upgrade to a faster drive if I wanted and put my games and stuff on there, and then only have the OS on the 500 gig and then maybe some programs I launch more regularly. The cache on that didn't seem to run out in any of my testing, but it did run out when copying over the game files. So what we did was, for the game files, we have a big external drive that it's a USB-C drive, so it's USB 3.0 point whatever speeds. And I was getting like, 300 megabytes a second copying until the cache ran out, and then it dropped to, now this is true for TLC or QLC, but it dropped down to like 15 megabytes a second, and then it would go up to like 80, and then drop down to like kilobytes per second, and then go, and it was so bad, I told Nick, I was like, I gotta take off, I got errands to run this afternoon, you're gonna have to watch it. Yeah. But none of your guys' drives did that, did it?
And I think that's just a capacity thing, because we just had so much extra space. So the way an SSD works with the data caching is that almost the majority of its empty space, regardless of the capacity of the drive, is set as single level NAND, which is the fastest mode that it can operate in. Now, to get all that capacity for SSDs, they'll use TLC or QLC, which means they'll fold the data 3 times or 4 times over into the same physical space on the NAND, so that way it can store all that data, but it's much slower to write to.
And when we're copying over gigabyte, tons of gigabytes, well, it was like 200 and something gigabytes of game files.
Yeah, I think it was about 200, 250 or something like that. And your drive is 500 gigs. Only about 60% of that is cache. And some of that was already taken by the Windows install, by the other stuff. And so once it runs out of cache, it has to do the slow process of folding that data as it's coming into the drive. That's the thing about having a larger capacity drive, is you just have more room for that cache, and then you got more opportunity for the OS to like not feel the bottleneck of like having to, okay, crap, I'm out of cache, I gotta slow down, I gotta fold.
Yeah. So I think having a smaller OS drive to start on something like this, 500 gigabytes fit 3 big game files on there. So yeah, you might be swapping out game libraries a little more often, but I think that's better to do that than scrimp on the rest of the parts to fit a bigger drive. Now, how do you feel about your system overall?
I'd probably just throw another different graphics card in.
Oh, yeah, dude, your CPU's set.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing wrong with the CPU.
Yeah. Well, the way I felt, we were kind of positioning it is like, okay, I could get this later down the road.
Yeah, but you spent more now to get, is very inefficient use of funds to spend more now on something you can't take advantage of now, right? Yeah. So it would have made more sense to get a better GPU now and a slower CPU that's not gonna hold back the GPU, and then upgrade the CPU later. That makes more sense as an upgrade path. Like right now you have a CPU that won't bottleneck your GPU, but it's not great at compute either. So you have now like an upgrade path for the GPU that makes a lot of sense, and your GPU then will be ready for it, or your CPU will be ready for it, but at what cost? You spent more now for less performance. Well, do we want to hear the total scores?
Let's do it.
So, in third place, we have...
He just looks at
Just looking at it.
In third place, we have Team Micro Center Associate and Nick with 116.9 points out of a possible 165. In second place, we have ChatGPT AI and Phil as basically the parts picker at 128.9 points out of a possible 165.
Oh, so only a little bit better.
Only a little bit. Okay, yeah, so with me having an overall score of 143.9 out of a possible 165, that's 100% of first place. So Phil Team AI is 89.5% of my performance. And then Nick, which is Team Micro Center, Matt and Nick, is 81.2%. It's not really bragging points or bragging or anything about this. I think I'd be surprised if I didn't do well, because I've been using these parts for years, and I've been building computers for decades. I still think I like the balance that I did. And this is not sponsored by any of the brands in any way. NVIDIA, Intel, AMD, they're not involved in this. This was all Micro Center. But this actually gave me an opportunity to show everyone screaming X3D meta. Like, it's a good CPU, but it's not the best or the most efficient choice. And this proves that, unfortunately, with the
Approaches to it.
the Team Micro Center build, because
One trick pony.
the 265KF is a much more rounded CPU for average everyday use at GPUs at this level. Once you start, if you're gonna pay for like a 5090, get the X3D. It makes sense. Never get like a 285K or anything like that. But the thing was, right now, it'd be really interesting to see, maybe in a later video, if we threw my GPU into Nick's build and then ran the scores again and see what happens in gaming.
Yeah.
Because I bet you his scores would be slightly higher than mine. They would be. All right, there you go. We actually have season 2 of this kind of already in the works. We are going to have a fixed upgrade budget because future-proofing is a discussion we talked about here for a moment. So we are gonna have a fixed upgrade dollar amount, which is not a lot, by the way. I'm thinking like $250 or $300 or something like that. But we have to choose which parts we are going to get rid of to upgrade. We are gonna tally what fair market value is for those parts as if we sold them, and then we're gonna see who had the better upgrade path in practicality. Because we can say, oh yeah, I upgrade, blah, 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 blah. So I paid more for my GPU up front. So I don't know if I have many areas to upgrade here. Like I wouldn't be able to jump to a 5070 Ti or anything like that, even if I sold my 9070 XT. But I know I can get a better drive. But if all I got was a better drive, we know what my scores are gonna be.
Yeah, it's still gonna be the same plus a little bit more.
But with Nick having a 7800 X3D, if he can get a few $100 for his, like say he gets $300 or $400 for his 9060 XT, and then he can throw a 9070 XT in there, now I'm kind of screwed.
Oh, and I want to say a note about AI. I'm actually very surprised at how reasonable and not like, it didn't do anything completely just wildly incorrect with the build. Like
It did with Austin and I, but it's improved.
Yeah, it's no, and that's why I wanted to mention this is that like I'm impressed with how reasonable and correct a lot of the answers are. I would definitely put it from like, no, don't even bother trying to ask it, to I would say ask it, and if you know a more knowledgeable tech head or like watch some YouTube channels, ask it and then also cross-reference those things, and I think you'll be able to get a decent like, setup out of that.
That's a big gap though, if you think about nearly 20% performance difference
For the same money.
for the same money.
Because that's the thing we have to
I think
keep coming back to, is that
as a
we're all
cons-
spending the same money.
as a consumer though, I think I should have had better formed questions.
But
like-
you don't know what you don't know, right? So how do you ask? And that's why it was important for me to have you go with the associate, I think, because you truly don't, like, Nick may work here every day, but he doesn't play with this stuff like Nick, Phil, and I do.
He doesn't geek out like me.
Yeah, he doesn't geek about it. So he doesn't retain these performance figures. Well, there we go. You guys heard we're going to be doing, like I said, the upgrade version of this. So I'm a little worried about that because I'm already thinking like, man, where could I upgrade? I'm not touching the CPU, not touching the RAM. All right, guys, thanks for watching. If you got any ideas for more versions of this type of competition, we want to do more fun stuff like this. So make sure you guys are subscribed so you don't miss it. And as always, we'll see you in the next one.